It's one of those New York days where you can go just about anywhere and do just about anything and have a great time. Well, today, Mets baseball front and center here in Flushing. The last game of the homestand, last chance to see the heroes before they head out on the road. At Citi Field in New York, the New York Mets play the Houston Astros. Mets baseball is presented in HD by IOTV. Get your HD free with IOTV. A pleasant good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Citi Field. Gary Cohen, Keith Hernandez with you today as the Mets play the rubber game of a three-game series against the Houston Astros. You know, millions of kids dream of being Major League Baseball players, and there'll be thousands of people in the stands today wishing they could be down on the field rather than up in the stands. But I wonder, on a beautiful sunny day in late August when you've already played 120-some-odd games in the season, if you are a Major League Baseball player, can you still appreciate the dream, or is it just a daily grind?
I think at this point of the season, and particularly day games, and particularly remember I played with a lot of AstroTurf fields, but particularly on grass fields, when you come out on a beautiful day like today, you're ready to begin the sixth and final month of the season. You've gone through a June, July, August, where it's terribly hot. You get a little break in the weather, and you come out to a nice, quiet afternoon. We didn't have one here today, but in my day it was much quieter. The crack of the bat, you hear the people talking, and the kids screaming for an autograph, and there you are in a big league uniform, and it works on the road too. It really gives you a sense of, you know, all the hard work, and you're blessed with the ability to be out here and be a Major League player. And
you know, some guys appreciate it more than others, and one guy who might be in that category is R.A. Dicky, who has toiled so long to get to this point in his career. Things haven't gone well for him his last couple of starts, but what a season it's been.
Well, he hasn't pitched poorly. He's been kind of victimized like Santana with the long ball. Remember, he took that game in Houston. He had the one-run lead, pitched beautifully, and Jeff Blum hit the home run with one out in the ninth that tied that ball game. He got a no decision. He got touched up his last two times. Gabby Sanchez's three-run home run kind of hurt him, but still, over his last 7 starts, he's 2-1 with a 2.47 earned run average, and he should be probably 6-1.
And Bud Norris will pitch for the Astros, pitched a fine game against the Mets 10 days ago.
Well, he beat them 3-2 in that ball game, went 7 strong innings, only gave up 2 hits. He's a power pitcher, a good breaking ball. His problem is his control. When he beat the Mets in Houston, he only walked 2 guys, so that's the key for him. He's coming off that shoulder problem. Bicep tendonitis, came back in late June. He's pitched great, 4 straight wins.
So it's the Mets and the Astros on a warm Sunday afternoon in New York. Final game of the homestand. Come on back. All the action today on SNY. By AT&T, rethink possible. By Frostbrewed Coors Light, the world's most refreshing beer. By Verizon, the signal is yours, wheeled in to transmit anything you want. By Volkswagen. And by the Neff Cure Foundation. September 10th is Ed Hearn Neff Cure Night at Citi Field. Honor Ed and buy your tickets at savingkidneys.org. Join the Mets Fan Club for Kids, presented by BJ's Wholesale Club. Members receive 2 tickets, an ID card, club cap, bag, special offers, and much more. Sign up today at Mets.com/kidsclub. Here's your Suzuki around the majors. CC Sabathia didn't pitch well, but he got his 18th win as the Yankees beat the White Sox 12-9. Eduardo Nunez hit his first big league home run. Dallas Braden, a complete game 4 hitter. And the A's beat the Rangers 5-0 to pull within 8.5 in the AL West. And Tim Hudson has been brilliant this year, never more so than last night. 7 innings, 13 strikeouts, a career high. Martin Prado drove in 5 as the Braves snapped their losing streak and beat the Marlins 12-3. R.A. Dicky tries again for his 9th win of the year. What a season he's had. He'll take the mound in just nanoseconds here at Citi Field. For these Sunday day games, kids and families taking the field along with the players right before the game and having a little chat, handshake, and autograph. A very nice touch that the Mets have instituted here at Citi Field. And the smiles on the faces of the kids and even the grown-ups who get to do this are just something to behold.
Well, the grown-ups are like big kids. They love baseball, and they've had their dream. We were all once that age right there. Gosh, I would have loved to have been on first base on a Sunday afternoon with shaking Willie McCovey's hand.
See, those kids could still be thinking, you know what? I could grow up to be Angel Pagan or Keith Hernandez.
That's true.
Here's your fourth starting lineup for the Astros. Carlos Lee, 3 RBIs last night, 28 in his last 28 games. He's been a big thorn in the Mets side. Jeff Blum, who hit the game-winning home run, or the game-tying home run against R.A. Dicky in the 9th inning, the last time Dicky faced them, in the lineup today for the first time in almost a week. He's been suffering from a neck problem, and there is R.A. making his 20th start today.
Well, 8-5, and we've talked about it. He could very easily, like most of the starters on this ball club, he could be 13-3 the way he's pitched. And the most important thing to look at, 31 walks and 126 and third. That is really amazing for a knuckleballer. And the Lexus Metzi defense, and Pregame made a couple nice catches last night. Got knocked out by one catch. He got a left hook and staggered him, but he came up with the ball. Beltran and Carter in right field. A little more offense. Davis Castillo Hernandez gets the start. Not me, Luis. There he is right there. The recent call-up.
He is the, what did we say yesterday? The 7th Hernandez in Mets history.
Is there any? But the only Hernandez to wear 17 was me, I believe.
Let's see. Levon wore 61. El Duque wore 26. Roberto Hernandez, I think, was 48.
Yes.
Manny Hernandez, I don't remember. I don't believe he wore 17.
No.
But I miss. Anderson Hernandez did not wear 17.
No.
Yeah, I think you're clear. Now all you have to do is, erase the memory of Dae-Sung Koo.
Oh. I never let Charlie live that one down.
So R.A. Dicky, who would be 7th in the National League in ERA if he had enough innings, which he should after today. Michael Bourne leads off, and he takes the knuckleball for a strike, and we're underway. Bourne riding a 7-game hitting streak, 2 for 7 in this series. The league's leading base stealer. And he takes a strike, and Dicky with a couple of good knuckleballs to start off ahead 0-2. Tommy Manzella elevated to the 2-hole today on deck, and then Hunter Pence here in the opening inning. And a comebacker. So Dicky off to a good start. 3 quality knuckleballs to start off Bourne, and a 1-3 putout for the first out of the day. The last time that Dicky pitched against Florida Tuesday night, there was a blowing mist, and we've seen on the couple of occasions when R.A. has had to pitch in wet weather that knuckleball is a problem for him. Today, not a hint of moisture, just a perfect afternoon for him to be pitching. Tommy Manzella had a good night last night, a career-high 3 hits, and so Brad Mills puts him in the 2-hole in the batting order today. Rookie shortstop, 27 years old, out of Tulane University. 3rd time he's hit second this year. 1-1 the count.
He snuck in a fastball right there.
Manzella missed a couple of months because of a broken finger. In fact, he just got back last week after the Mets faced the Astros in Houston. Made a couple of nice defensive plays last night as well. And it's bounced down to David Wright at 2-hopper. And quickly there are 2 out.
Well, right off the get-go, R.A. Dickey has jammed the first 2 hitters, Bourne and Manzella, with that hard knuckleball.
So here's Hunter Pence with 2 out and nobody on. The last 2 nights, Met pitchers have really had to slog through the first inning. Mike Pelfrey had a 31-pitch first inning on Friday night. Left the bases loaded. Then Johan Santana gave up a couple of runs in the first inning last night. So Dicky tried for something different. Dicky, who's given up only 3 first-inning runs all year, has himself a 1-2-3 opening frame today. No score. fourth straight start for Luis Castillo. Jose Reyes took some swings in the cage today, but not yet ready to hit. And so Luis Hernandez gets his first start as a Met, made his Mets debut last night. David, right now in the top 10 in the National League in batting. You know there are only 8 hitters in the National League hitting over 300.
Well, the hitting has come down, hasn't it? It's back to good pitching. And there's Bud Norris, his 21st start, 6th round pick in the 2006 draft.
Angel Pagan looking for his first hit in this series. He's gone 0 for 9 in the first 2 games. Angel at .294 for the year.
So Bud Norris is a hard thrower. You can see that first fastball had some electricity to it.
Well, 3 starts back, he struck out 14. So that's what he's capable of.
14 Pirates, correct?
Well, it still counts.
Oh, well, I wasn't disparaging it. Please, we disparaged them enough in that 3-game series.
Actually, their offense is not horrible, but their pitching staff is just dreadful.
Is this a typo on his bio here?
What's that?
I'll tell you after this pitch. We'll keep everybody in suspense. So that'll hold him in their seats.
I know. I'm just tingling waiting to find out. Pagan lifts one down the left field side over toward the short fence and into the stands.
All right. He was named the Pacific Coast Pitcher of the Year in 2009 after posting a 4-9 record and a 2.63 earned run average. How are you 4-9 in Pacific Coast Pitcher of the Year?
Where does it say that?
Top of the page.
Pacific Coast League Pitcher of the Year, 4-9. Well, he was 2.63. That's a good ERA.
4-9?
Well, he was unlucky.
Pitcher of the Year? Okay.
I mean, maybe other guys had really bad years.
You told me how to prepare for a game,
right.
Look for something distinctive.
Well, there you go.
That came out. That popped out.
That's distinctive. I'm with you on that. That totally blew right by it. Thank you for pointing that out.
4-9 and Pitcher of the Year.
19 starts, 4-9, 2.63. Well, remember what was the year? Nolan Ryan was like 8-16 and led the league in ERA.
Yes.
The Astros.
Yes.
So.
But he's got good stuff. We're not disparaging him.
Well, he's 6-7 in the big leagues this year, but his ERA is over 5. He starts out his day, though, with the strikeout of Pagan for the first out. So Pagan now 0 for 10 in this series. Struck out 3 times last night.
Well, this is just a good pitch. We've always talked about when a hitter has 2 strikes, he's got to protect the plate, and where does it make him most vulnerable? And you see Pagan's on top of the plate. That ball nipped the black. That is a good pitcher's pitch.
Here's Luis Castillo, 3 for 8 in this series, making his 4th straight start. Scored the Mets' only run last night and scored their first run on Friday night. Mets have scored only 3 runs in the first 2 games of this series as their offensive woes continue. And Louis takes in off the plate, 95 from Norris, 1-1.
Well, Louis, since being inserted in the lineup on an everyday basis, the last 4 games has gone 3 for 12.
Ruben Tejada getting the day off today. He's been playing virtually every day. Reyes, according to Jerry Manuel, would be available to run or play defense in an emergency, but definitely will not swing the bat today. Took a few swings in the cages, did a lot of running in the outfield. But Jose definitely not ready and probably won't be for another few days outside. There's no point putting him on the disabled list at this point because the rosters will expand on Wednesday, which is September 1st, and the Mets can call up some more infield help and whoever else they want. Probably won't be a lot of call-ups initially on the 1st because Buffalo's in a race in the International League. 3-2 now to Castillo. But, the obvious candidates are, guys like Raul Valdez and Sean Green, people you've seen before. Probably bring up another catcher. Mets have Omir Santos is hurt, but Michael Barrett is down in AAA, a veteran, so you might see him. There's a 3-2 to Castillo, and it's fouled away. The most interesting candidate to come up, you'd have to think, would be Henry Mejia, who is going to start tomorrow night for Buffalo after making back-to-back scoreless starts for Binghamton. He was promoted. He'll start tomorrow night for Buffalo.
Well, he's going to be pitching in a higher classification, obviously at AAA.
And I think it's also of note, here's the 3-2, Castillo fouls another one off, is that he's pitching on the same day as Pat Mish. So if the decision is made to bring Mejia up and put him in the rotation, he can slide right into that spot. Mish has pitched credibly for his 3 starts as a Met, but the Mets would certainly love to get a look at Mejia as a starter.
Well, there's the future right there, youngster.
He's 20 years old. And it's outside, ball 4. Good turn at bat for Castillo as he works out the walk from Norris, and the Mets have their first base runner.
We'll take a look at the Coors Light Astros defense, and there's some guys in the outfield here, both squads. Francoeur's on the bench with some pretty strong arms. You see the outfield assist for Pence. Bourne also has a strong arm. Michaels in left, Johnson, Manzella, Blum, Lee playing his 5th game now at first base. I think that's going to be a spot where he's going to be seen more frequently as the years pass.
Carlos Beltran fouls back the first pitch. Carlos just 6 for his last 34. He has not had an extra base hit since the first game of the Mets series in Houston 13 days ago. Carlos hitting .218 for the year, and Castillo jumps back to the bag. Carlos Lee playing first base again today for the Astros. He looked awfully good last night.
He made a couple nice plays, didn't he? He robbed the leadoff apparent double down the line off the bat of Santana.
It's the 5th game that Lee started at first base this year. And Beltran pops one up behind third base. And the shortstop Manzella over to grab it for the 2nd out. And Castillo back to first, 2 away. You would think that going down the road that the Astros would like to leave Lee at first base and get a little faster in the outfield.
Well, it's, you hate, as an old first baseman myself, you used to hide guys there. But Lee's a good enough athlete. He doesn't move well, but he's got good hands. He showed some good hands yesterday, certainly. But, the Astros need to beef up their offense, and they need that bat in the lineup since they lost Berkman.
Here's Chris Carter hitting cleanup today for the 5th time this year. Hit cleanup a couple of games in Pittsburgh, and the Mets won both those games. Carter hitting at .263, and he pops the first pitch up. And another chance for the shortstop Manzella, and Norris is through the opening inning. No score after 1 at Citi Field. Visit the health information team at the Health and Wellness Center at Citi Field. Brought to you by the North Shore LIJ and the Katz Institute for Women's Health. North Shore LIJ, hope lives here. Carlos Lee leads off the 2nd inning for Houston.
Big 2-run shot last night off Santana kind of iced that game for the Astros. And there was no doubt about that home run. He crushed it. Big, strong man, tough strikeout for a power hitter.
28 RBIs in his last 28 games. And he has great career numbers against R.A. Dicky. Now, some of those are from when Dicky was a conventional pitcher. But Lee is 7 for 11 with a home run against Robert Allen Dickey. There's a fastball for a strike, 2-1. Dicky had an 8-pitch first inning with 3 ground ball outs. He has not allowed a first inning run now in any of his last 10 games. Now, I wonder, is it more of an advantage for a knuckleball pitcher early in a game than it would be for a conventional pitcher?
Definitely. I think the first time around, hitters are going to want to get a feel for the knuckleball, and it certainly is an advantage more so than the conventional pitcher. No question. If the conventional pitcher, Garrett, a lot of times I get up to the plate, I'd always took a first strike the first time up, and I always hoped for ball 1, and it didn't matter what pitch it was, and then I hoped for ball 2. That was the perfect scenario. Now, and it was his other pitch. So now I'm 2-0. I'm not only 2-0 and in the catbird seat, but I've seen his fastball and his breaking ball, and then go to hitting. Knuckleballer, it's a whole different animal.
Hit hard, and David Wright snags the liner. So Carlos Lee seems to have Dicky figured out a little bit, but a hard hit ball found leather.
Olay. The hot corner. A rocket.
It's a wake-up call on an early Sunday afternoon. Here's Jeff Blum, whom Dicky remembers well. Dicky was looking for back-to-back complete game victories, had a 2-1 lead going to the bottom of the 9th in Houston, and with 1 out, Blum shocked him with what was Blum's first and, to this point, only home run of the season to tie the game.
8 1/3 innings pitched, going for a complete game, 1-run lead, only giving up 1 run the whole game, and a knuckleball that didn't knuckle.
And, you know, something fairly similar happened to R.A. in his next start, which was his last start against Florida. He had the lead in the 7th inning, and Gabby Sanchez got a knuckleball that didn't move and hit a 3-run homer, and that cost Dicky a victory as well. The good news is that in both of those games, the one in Houston and the one against Florida, the Mets wound up winning the ball game. They won in 14 innings in the game in Houston, and then that game in that misting drizzle, the Mets won in the bottom of the 9th. 2-2, and Blum tries to hold. Did he go? He went around. And DeMuth with the call, and Dicky has his first strikeout of the day.
Well, this is the hard knuckleball, and he wants to throw it inside, and he does get it inside. He gets less break, but more the velocity fools the hitter. The ball sneaks up on him. Very deceptive. Let's see if he swung. I'd have to say he did.
So 2 out and nobody on. Now Jason Michaels getting the start in left field today. Just the 22nd game he started this season. And a pinch hit single to drive in a run in the opening game of this series. His only appearance to date. Michaels, veteran extra outfielder. And the slowest knuckleball. He got it down to 53.
I saw that.
In his last start.
Yep.
This one at 55. Right at the speed limit.
A new wrinkle. Slow, slowest, and slow. Slower, slower, and slow. Excuse me.
It's Stu Miller, right?
Yes.
Stu Miller, who famously was blown off the mound at Candlestick Park.
Look at the ball sink.
Josh Tolley trying to pluck it, came up empty. Here's the 1-2. A hard knuckleball fouled away. So he's throwing 3 knuckleballs in this at bat at 3 vastly different speeds.
So that's his game. He changes speeds more than any knuckleballer I've ever seen, and more so than Phil Niekro. Phil Niekro, of course, he and Wilbur Wood were the premier knuckleballers of their generation. Phil had a hard one and a slow one. But he predominantly stayed with the slow one 80% of the time, where R.A. Spreads it around pretty evenly.
You want to face Charlie Huff?
Oh, yes. Many times. Same thing. Knuckleballers. It's tough. It's not easy.
2-2 to Michaels. And a little high. And a full count.
Charlie threw at the same speed all the time. Face him when he was with the Dodgers, of course. And, of course, there was Joe Niekro with the Astros.
But he threw other pitches.
Yes, he did.
Ball 4, and so a 2-out walk. The first base runner of the day for the Astros. Michaels is aboard.
As a matter of fact, Joe Niekro was one of the guys, if I ever came back and played again, I would not be so stubborn against him. He would always throw that backdoor slider. He had a good little backdoor slider that he could throw 2-0, 3-1 for a strike to a left-hand hitter, and he did to me all the time. I should have looked for it. I never did. I always took it. If I could run the clock back again, I would have sat on that slider on the outside corner when I got ahead in the count.
Woulda, shoulda, coulda. Racetrack mantra.
Joe's a good guy. Passed away. Shame. At a young age.
Chris Johnson bounces one slowly. David Wright cuts it off. And the inning is over. So Dicky has 4 ground ball outs in the first 2 innings. It's a scoreless game to the bottom of the second. Lucy, get to the phone at 718-565-4376 or visit Mets.com/fantasycamp today. Man and bear in unusual posture. David Wright leads off the home second inning. David 1 for 7 in this series with a couple of RBIs. He's now tied for 3rd in the National League with those 86 RBIs and now 10th in the league with that .297 batting average. Leading off against Bud Norris in the home second. Well, we've done some investigation along with our wonderful statistician Dave Freed into the Bud Norris Pacific Coast League Pitcher of the Year award last year for his 4-9 season. David fouls one away. It turns out that Norris had the best ERA in the Pacific Coast League at 2.63. The next best ERA belonged to Ramon Ortiz, a veteran, at 3.05. And Ortiz also had a losing record. He was 5-6.
So the big winners. Oh, nice slider by Norris right there.
The leader in victories in the Pacific Coast League was a guy named Tony Barnett in Reno. He went 14-8. But his ERA was 5.79.
Well, that Reno and that high altitude in the Sierra Nevadas. And you also got Giancarlo Alvarado in Albuquerque, also a high elevated ballpark. He was 13-10 with a 3.49.
So, starting to understand how it is that Norris won the award. Now, David does some evasive maneuvers. And it's ball 4 and he's aboard, but that was close.
Well, he wants the ball away. Look where the catcher's set up. Well, keep an eye on the rest of Davis' at-bats here off Norris.
I mean, that ball was not head high, but he ducked his head as though he were concerned that it might be. It was more elbow high. So the Mets have a leadoff base runner, the second walk given up by Norris. And Ike Davis will step in, and Davis has walked 6 times in the last 3 games. He's gone 2 for 5 in this series. Just one more point about Norris and that losing record, winning that award. I referenced Nolan Ryan. 1987, Ryan was 8-16, led the league in ERA at 2.76, and despite going 8-16, he was 5th in the Cy Young balloting that year.
That was not a very good offensive ball club in Houston. That's 1 year off of their division win.
Ike rips one into right field for a base hit. Right heads for third as Pence digs it out. Right being held up, and Davis pulls into second with a double. The Mets' first hit of the game. Davis's 24th double of the year.
Ball's in, right down the pipe. Nice level swing in that high pitch.
So the Mets have it set up, second and third and nobody out. Josh Tolley coming up. Josh did not start the last 2 games with Henry Blanco behind the plate. Got a couple of at-bats in yesterday's game. Went 0 for 2, including what could have been the at-bat that could have turned the game for the Mets in the 8th inning after they'd gotten a run. 2 out and 2 on. He hit a sinking liner to left, and Jason Bourgeois made a nice catch. And that was the end of the Mets' hopes in that game. Tolley takes below the knees for ball 1. So Josh at 297 for the year and hitting 391 with runners in scoring position.
Josh, that 2-inch choke up from Josh.
Up and in, and it's 2-0.
Good up and in fastball. Well, the IOTV pitch differential, you can see too much plate and up, right on it, staying level. Mr. Norris likes to pitch up and in. He's rushing it up there. You got a lot of Met hitters on top of the plate. Tolley is on top of that dish, big time.
Infield back, conceding a run on a grounder, and that pitch is down, and it's 3-0. You got the number 8 hitter Luis Hernandez on deck.
You can see shading in the outfield, the opposite field with Josh. Josh not a power hitter, sprays the ball all around.
Luis Hernandez getting his first start as a Met. It could be up in a big spot in a moment.
See Josh deep in the box. We see so much of that today. Big wide spread stance on top of the plate. I used to stand closer than that against left-handers.
Well, you had that bat right out over the plate.
Yeah, well, yeah, that was I did hold the bat away from my body. I had a bad wrist as a kid.
3-1 to Josh, and it's up and away. Ball 4, and the Mets have the bases loaded and nobody out. Well, Norris has faced 7 batters, and he's walked 3 of them. Ultimately 2 in 7 innings against the Mets the first time he faced them.
Well, this has always been his problem. He's a hard diamond in the rough. He's a hard thrower. He's got all the stuff, but it's just a matter of command and consistency.
Well, here's where it gets dicey for the Mets. As a team this year, the Mets have hit just 190 with the bases loaded. See if a new face can change that around.
Well, it gets dicey for the Mets anytime runners are in scoring position. And let's see how they're playing the defense here. They're going to concede the run. And they're playing Hernandez way in the opposite field. Look at Pence. Jeez, he's playing him like a pull hitter. Big gap in right center field.
Hernandez had his first big league at bat of the season last night, grounded out in the 9th inning, and he swings and misses the fastball, 0-1. Hernandez, 103 major league games, a lifetime .244 hitter with Baltimore and Kansas City. He was hitting .280 in Buffalo this year.
Look at all this wide space to drive a ball. Wow.
Hernandez, a switch hitter. A little better right-handed than left. And Norris ahead of him 0-2 with the pitcher on deck. Those are those bases loaded numbers. The Mets haven't hit a grand slam in almost 13 months.
Of season or just the calendar year?
August 1st last year. So calendar year. Oh-2 from Norris, and Hernandez strikes out on a high fastball. That's the first out of the inning.
Wow, he just threw 3 straight fastballs right by Senor Hernandez.
Well, those are the Mets' offensive rankings, and it just gets uglier as the situation gets more important. Mets are averaging for the season now barely over 4 runs per game, 3rd last in the National League. The Astros are one of the 2 teams below them. All right, Dicky fouls off the first one, and the Pirates are the lowest scoring team in the league.
You see the defense in at the corners because there's always a potential for a squeeze. Double play depth on the infield, but look at the outfielders. This whole series, the Astros have played a very, very shallow outfield, but this is extremely shallow.
6 hits, 3 RBIs for Dicky this year, but you know what they tell pitchers here? You think you're going to hit into a double play? Strike out.
Get a base hit.
At least a fly ball.
Toward the middle of the diamond, it's a base hit. Into scores right. Davis right behind him. On to third goes Tolley. R.A. Dicky with a 2-run single. And the Mets are up 2-0.
Not sure why Jeff Blum didn't make more of an effort for that ball.
I gotta believe he didn't pick it off the bat. This was a double play ball. Stunning. Watch.
He's coming off a neck injury, and I wonder whether that has anything to do with it. But boy, at least dive and try and keep it on the infield, save one of the runs.
Yes.
Anyway, Dicky picks up his 4th and 5th runs batted in, and that leads to some joy in the stands.
Well, you lose a little defense with Blum out there at second base.
So 2 runs are home, still only 1 out. 1st and 3rd for Pregame, who took a call 3rd strike his first time. Angel has 4 strikeouts in his last 6 at bats. To avoid striking out here, trying to make contact and get that run in. Angel with his speed, very tough to double up from the left side. And Norris misses away 1-1. So the Mets, who had just 2 runs and 2 hits in 7 innings against Norris when they faced him 10 days ago, have 2 runs and 2 hits already today. Castillo on deck. Pregame foul tips 1, 1-2.
Angel's been pulling off that front shoulder. Watch his front shoulder. And this swing, he pulls out. And that's, you can see a little awkward there, reaching. And that's why he's starting to swing at some bad pitches. Fish upstairs and down because he's starting too early. So it shows me his timing's off right now.
Slow ground ball. It'll be tough to get to. They'll settle for 1, and a run comes home. Tolley comes in. It's 3-0 New York. So Pregame making contact for his 56th run batted in.
Well, he didn't hit it hard, very hard. Ball's right down the middle. Right down Broadway. You can see kind of a defensive swing there. Angel doesn't feel comfortable at the plate. It's almost a defensive swing.
Well, the Mets have put together a 3-run inning. Dicky at second with 2 down. And now Castillo, who walked his first time up. R.A. with the big hit in this inning. A bases loaded single to get 2 runs in. And Castillo dumps one, shallow right center, and that's going to fall for a hit. Dicky around third and heading home. Castillo with an RBI single, and it's 4-0 New York.
Oh, well placed. Up and in. Luis opening up those hips, stepping in the bucket there. It opens it up.
We'll take it. And I don't want to be too critical, but that's a ball that maybe Pence should have made a dive for.
Should have been playing a little more over in the gap.
There goes Castillo. Castro's throw to second on the money, and Castillo's out to end the inning. 2-6 on the caught stealing, but it's a 4-run inning for the Mets with R.A. Dicky right in the middle of it, singling up the middle to drive in 2. And the Mets have a 4-0 lead. Sits down with Braylon Edwards. Hear what he has to say about dropped passes and whether his bad hand is to blame. Plus, Jim Leonard shares his thoughts on this year's Jets defense on an all-new Jets Nation Inside Camp tonight at 7 p.m. only on SNY. Here's your AT&T trivia question for today. What 3 Met pitchers have won the National League ERA title?
Seaver's got to be one, Doc. So we got to figure out the other one.
Okay.
Maybe it wasn't Doc.
Well, Doc definitely did in 85.
Okay.
1.53. That would be hard to beat. Jason Castro leading off the 3rd inning with R.A. Dickey now with a 4-0 lead. Castro hitting 191 in his rookie year. Trying to plumb the depths of my memory.
Someone's in there that is going to be the curveball. I think I have a vague memory. Oh, Norris is not happy. That's the 3 walks, son.
It wasn't the Gatorade's fault.
Well,
2-2 to Castro with Norris on deck, and then Michael Bourne. I wonder if that was his bat that he used to attack the Gatorade. I mean, if you were on his team and he took your bat to attack the Gatorade, how would you feel about that?
Well, maybe it was his bat.
I hope so.
I'm sure it was his bat. I can't. You know, the hitters, everyday players' bats, and the bench players, they're in the rack. You know, but maybe someone was. Yeah, it would upset me. But hey,
imagine if he picked up Greg Jeffrey's bat.
Oh. Like Darryl did in Atlanta?
What did Darryl do in Atlanta?
Oh, gosh.
I don't know that
Let me
story.
tell you. Well, the story was we were struggling. I forget which year. I believe it was the 2nd year that Jeffries was with us.
Driven to right field, and back goes Pagan, and he can't get it. Castro heads for second, and he's in with a leadoff double. First hit for the Astros. Castro's 5th double of the year. Ball just took off on Pagan.
That was just a bullet right there. Just out of his reach. But getting back to the story, Jeffries had those, I believe those Japanese bats. It was a new company. And he hadn't, he got called up the year before, had the great playoff and the finish with us. And we were on a losing streak. And
so that was 88.
88.
Would be 89.
So we got beat. It's getaway day in Atlanta, and Charlie is putting all of Jeffries' bats. It's going to be a bunt here, folks, obviously.
Norris pulled the bat back.
And all of our bats went together collectively into the bat carriers, and Jeffries always didn't want his with the team. He had to be in a special, and I blame Charlie for that. Charlie should have told him to take a hike, and he was still a rookie. I think was that his rookie status still. I don't think he looked. Charlie Samuels, our clubhouse man. I didn't really care one way or the other, but Darryl was particularly upset and miffed after a bad day, and Charlie was putting all the Jeffries bats in his special.
Dicky off the mound and sacrifice 1-4.
Duffel bag gear or whatever he was, and Darryl grabbed it from Charlie and just threw Jeffries' bats. Just threw them across out of the bag and went all across the floor in the clubhouse. And everybody had we kind of laughed at that. So Greg didn't enamor himself with us by doing that. You pay your dues. You had some guys there who were pretty good players that shared their bats with everybody else. And who are you? You just had a month and a half. What are you talking about here?
Infield back for Michael Bourne, and he takes high, ball 1.
So you get my point.
Yeah, what I'm wondering is, was it just a superstition, or was there some ostensible reason why a player would want to have his bat segregated from the rest?
Probably a superstition, but you know what? Get a couple years in the big leagues,
and then you can be as eccentric as you want.
Exactly. And have some good years to back it up.
Bourne hit a comebacker his first time, and he swings at the knuckleball, 2-1.
But that's kind of like what the Mets have always done. They've kind of pampered their boys that come up, their prospects, and I think that's a grave error in judgment.
Well, we saw it last year with Fernando Martinez. He comes up to the big leagues, and in the second game he plays, he doesn't run out of pop-up, and there's no consequence.
I mean, I can imagine Jeffries doing that in that old St. Louis club that I broke in with Bob Gibson there. Oh, my word. That would have been trouble.
Two. And Bourne bounces one. That'll bring a run home. Dicky better hurry. Doesn't get there in time, and Bourne beats it out for an infield hit. Castro comes home with the first Houston run. It's 4-1 New York.
Well, there's nothing wrong with what Davis does here. A good feed. Dicky doesn't get there. No excuse to be beat. And he was beat. Let's watch his first move. He's just not real quick. He just kind of lumbers over there, doesn't he?
There was a moment's hesitation before he busted it. And that's enough against a guy like Bourne. A good call by Kerwin Danley at first base. Very close. So the leadoff double by Castro, a sacrifice, and now Bourne with the infield hit. You see Dicky blowing on his fingers there. Worry about blisters with a knuckleball pitcher the same way you would with a conventional pitcher, since you're using your fingernails and your tips.
He would get blisters more, I think, in a different spot.
Yeah,
probably at the very, like you said, the tips of his fingers.
So now Tommy Manzella, who grounded out his first time up, and of course Dicky has to be wary of Bourne, who's the league's leading base stealer with 44 this year.
And it's always easier to steal off of a knuckleballer.
But as we've seen with Bourne throughout the games the Mets have played with the Astros, as on that first pitch, he doesn't take a substantial lead until he's ready to run. There's no threat there.
And he takes his stance is odd.
He's just got a very small lead. And then when he's ready to run, he'll lengthen that lead and make it pretty obvious that he's running.
Now, as a hitter, Gary, you might be more inclined now to be ready, sit fastball, and be ready for the hard knuckleball.
Good knuckleball, and it's 0-2.
He likes to throw that knuckleball inside, tie hitters up.
He'll throw that hard one away that moves kind of like a slider. Hit to right center field. Pagani's is over. And that's the second out, and Bourne goes back to first.
Take a look at the swing here. Just got beat inside. As Ralph would say, you need to get that contact around 3 inches in front. 3 more inches in front. It got just a little behind him.
Now Hunter Pence, who grounded out to third base his first time up. So I got some numbers here. Keith versus the knuckleballers.
Okay.
Charlie Huff, 2 for 12.
Okay, I'll accept that.
Phil Niekro, 233.
How many at bats?
A lot of them.
Joe Niekro.
Joe Niekro, 207.
Yeah, they gave me trouble.
So you would rather see a guy throwing 95 any day.
But I walked a lot too with those guys. I did work counts because I had big boppers behind me. You know, the third hitter.
So Dave needs to
get Dave needs to research.
You're on base percentages.
Let's go, Dave.
Guys.
Get with it. I know it's a morning game, but come on. I need at bats. I need walks and ribeye steaks. I never enjoyed hitting off knuckleballs.
I don't think anybody really does. Is there anybody who's ever said, "Hey, I love hitting against a knuckleballer"?
I don't think I would have liked facing Wilbur Wood. I never faced a left-handed knuckleball.
Right.
Maybe it would have been better. I don't know. I've never had the experience.
At 43 at bats against Phil Niekro, 10 hits, 16 walks.
Thank you.
3 RBIs.
Okay, so 16 walks.
1 homer.
So you know I was in the middle of a lot.
That's good.
Because, you know, the third hitter's an RBI guy and a table setter.
Gets away from Tolle, and that'll get Bourne down to second base. That one completely eluded Josh.
Sometimes that ball can just mesmerize you.
Pass ball charge to Tolle.
I think a lot of times, too, there's got to be an anticipation on the catcher's part as well as the hitter as where it's going to break. And, you know, maybe your guess is as good as mine.
Sometimes you just don't know. 2-2 to Pence. So the bottom line, you against Phil Niekro, 441 on base percentage. It's very nice.
Yeah, so thank you, Dave. You're very good.
Just turned a negative into a positive.
Yeah, so it was a win. Win-win.
2-2 to Pence. And he strokes one to the right side. Castillo with a 360. And the inning is over. The Astros get one back, 4-1 Mets.
4-1 Mets in the home third, back at a gorgeous summer day at Citi Field. One of the last few days of summer, I guess, with Labor Day fast approaching. Another good performance from R.A. Dicky so far, and it's time now for our Verizon Live Ask the Booth, one of our favorite segments of the homestand. I found Steve, a Met fan from Indiana, who's here at Citi Field for the first time, and Steve wants to ask you guys about the rotation. Steve?
Hi, guys. Do you see Dicky and Mejia in the rotation next year, or do they go after Ali and
maybe a Ted Lilly type guy, like free agent? How do you see the rotation shaping up next year, guys? What do you think?
Well, first of all, R.A. Dicky is going to be arbitration eligible, so the Mets have to figure out whether they're going to want to pay that freight, which I assume that they are going to want to. In fact, you might even think that you consider locking him up for more than a year, given what he's done this year and given the history of knuckleballers and their longevity. As for Mejia, I think the Mets have to see him pitch in the big leagues a couple of times this September before they make any assumptions about next year.
Well, he'll certainly have an opportunity to make the ball club with a good spring training, but it looks like it would be Neese, Santana, Neese, Dicky, Pelfrey. There you got 4 right there, so you're looking for just one spot open.
I think the problem that the Mets have going into the offseason when you talk about potential free agents, as Beltran goes down swinging, third strikeout for Norris, is that they have so much money tied up in players for next year who might well be either somewhat or completely unproductive. Between Oliver Perez and Luis Castillo and Carlos Beltran and Francisco Rodriguez, that's an enormous amount of money tied up into players who may not contribute anything to this team next year, and that's going to really crimp any ability that they have, you would think, to go out and spend money on a guy like Cliff Lee.
Well, I think also too there's going to be some big decisions to be made by the top brass. Do you change in a considerable way the face of this team if this season just continues to go sputter along? Do you make radical changes with this ball club? There could be a whole new face here next year, a whole new direction.
Chris Carter popped it short his first time. Now, when you say radical change, what people think, and I don't know if you're implying this, is the 2 guys on the left side of the infield who have been the cornerstones of this franchise over the last half decade.
We certainly can't get in any trouble, or you can find out by throwing out, hey, Reyes is available. Let it be known. Hey, right, we're willing to trade him, and just see what comes back to you.
From other general
I'm sure you get a whole bunch of calls, and maybe something's in there. I don't know.
Carter rips one into right center. That's a base hit. Hence cuts it off, and Carter stops at first with a 1-out single.
I just feel, Gary, we said it after 2006, you remember, that was the year for them to win, and it's been all downhill since then. And I just think that 2007 and 2008 weighs very heavily on this core group. And I'm not just singling out Wright and Reyes. I'm talking about the guys that were here. I don't know if they can get over that hump of those 2 disastrous years and those 2 what the papers call collapse. So do you want to bring in some new faces? It's a big decision to make.
David walked and scored his first time up. Well, it's a very interesting question. It's very provocative, and I would think that after what's happened with this franchise over the last couple of years, that the powers that be have got to have everything on the table going into the offseason. Not necessarily that they're going to blow it up, but they have to certainly consider every option.
You just never know what's out there unless you ask. And, maybe there's a big blockbuster deal out there. You're not going to get chopped liver for Wright and Reyes.
Well, in Reyes' case, Reyes has an option for next year. Right. I think it's $11 million. So if somebody were to trade for him, if the Mets pick up the option and trade him, then he'd have 1 year. And I think that would affect what you'd get for him. Whereas Wright is signed for, I think it's 2 more years. Because, that's part of the consideration anytime you make a deal. How long do I have this player under control?
Right.
And, if your team X looking to trade for Jose Reyes, you'd have to say, well, he's only under control for 1 year, so what am I going to give in return? How much will I give in return?
And you can't go to that player, Reyes, and say, hey, look, we'll trade for you if you promise to sign.
Right.
You know, you can't do that.
Well, I mean, that's what the Mets did as Wright goes down swinging for the second out. I mean, that's basically what the Mets did when they traded for Santana. You know, they made the deal for him, and then they were able to lock him up.
David goes down for the first time today. Got beat on an inside back-up slider. So, you know, it'll be interesting. This is the first time in well, actually the second 2 years in a row now where I'll be very interested to see what goes on in the winter with the Mets.
Ike Davis doubled to right and scored a run in the second. Well, I will say this, that sometimes when you go into an off season or you go into a spring training, you make certain assumptions about what is going to work and what your concerns are. And sometimes, and I think this year is an example of that, you're completely wrong. I mean, we assumed that going into this season that the Mets' greatest concern was going to be starting pitching.
Right.
And it's turned out to be the least of their concerns.
Correct.
Whereas the offense, which I think we all assumed going into the season was going to be a plus, has been an enormous negative this year.
How many times have we heard some of the best trades you make are the ones you don't? So that's why the general manager, they pay him the big bucks to make those decisions.
1-2 to Ike. He's looked much better swinging the bat the last few days.
I would just like to see a stronger minor league system and building up from within.
Well, the Mets have, you know, they've promoted some nice pieces from the minor league system this year. Ike being one, Josh Foley, and John Neese is still a rookie this year. So the system has certainly produced some nice pieces. But, you know, how do you fill out what you hope to be a championship team in the future?
Well, it just seems to me that you've got a big ballpark here. If you're going to keep the dimensions, then you've got to build this team around pitching, defense, and speed. And, you know, today's players don't hit and run a lot. They want to hit home runs. This ballpark is not conducive for that. But if you can put together a team with a lot of speed and line drive hitters and hit and run and good defense and good pitching, you're going to have success here.
Davis goes down looking. 3 strikeouts in the inning for Bud Norris. And the Mets lead 1. Let's go to Matt Cerrone from MetsBlog.com at the Verizon studio. Get a quick update on what the fans are thinking.
Low here. Watch the catcher lift his glove. But watch his reaction. And Ron Darling made a comment during the Marlins series that Dyke's got to. It's not going to get it done because umpires watch, not just the home plate umpire. You've got 3 umpires out there on the bases that see that. And if you start doing that, I guarantee you're not going to get close calls. And it gets around all the umpires, and they're going to make you stop.
0-2 to Carlos Lee, who lined out to third base his first time up. It'll be Lee, then Blum and Michaels for the Astros in the 4th. And Lee lifts one to shallow left. Luis Hernandez trailing out. One away. Jeff Blum will be the batter. Let's check in with Kevin.
Josh Thole, one of the big improvements he's made this year has also been not just his overall catching, but his throwing. And I'm sure you guys have noticed his throws. Not only is he doing well catching runners, 6 of 16 on the year, but his throws are a lot stronger. And I asked him about it. He said, you know what? I think I was so concentrating. You know, he's only been at this position a couple of years. And he said, I was so concentrating on the transfer and on footwork, I was really almost forgetting about the throwing part. I talked to Dave Joust, and in spring training with the Mets did this year is they made him concentrate on the throwing part by doing this. They would stand up, from the pitcher's mound and have Thole stand up and throw him baseballs. And they said, forget about your footwork, forget about the transfer. I want you to throw this ball to second base as hard as you possibly can. And so they did that a lot during spring training. And then they realized, wow, Josh has a good arm here. He just has never really used it. They did a lot more long toss in AAA to kind of work on the strength of that arm. So now he's combining that, kind of letting it loose with the transfer and the footwork. And he's doing a much better job throwing guys out. We're seeing that arm strength that we haven't seen before this year, guys.
There's no question the results have been there.
Oh, boy.
I talked to Josh the other day and asked him what he thought he needed to work on the most. And he said game calling. He's very comfortable with his throwing right now, but he really feels as though, and it's different obviously with Dicky, but with the more conventional pitchers, just figuring out the game plan at bat to at bat and inning to inning.
Well, that's the responsibilities of a catcher. And
the slow knuckleball is pulled into right for a base hit. So that time the super slow knuckler didn't work.
And we always talk about catchers wearing down later in their career. And a lot of it is because they're squatting. The physical part of catching, they're squatting down there. But also the mental part of it. There's no break for a catcher. You're calling a game, too. You have to separate your offense when you're struggling in a slump because you are calling a ball game back there. And you got a veteran catcher, and you cannot let your slump affect your game calling. And that's a lot of stress back there. Well, not stress is probably too strong a word, but it wears on you mentally because sometimes you make a call you think's right, and the guy hits a home run. You can second guess yourself. But that's the added responsibility. The catcher's on both sides of the field like no other position in the game.
2-0 to Jason Michaels. Well, it's got to be similar. I guess when you're a fielder, you make an error, you don't want to carry that into your at-bat, but
that's a physical error.
Right, but I'm saying with a catcher, you've got 100 decisions to make in the course of a game.
Today's game, maybe 130.
Yeah.
40.
Dicky behind on the count, 3-0. He's walked one today, and that was Michaels in the second inning. Chris Johnson on deck. That's with a 4-1 lead in the 4th. And there's a strike. 3-1.
That's a lot of mental fatigue for a catcher. I think more so than a first baseman or anybody else out there that plays every day.
And he walks Michaels for a second time. So now the Astros have 2 men on. And Chris Johnson coming to the plate. Johnson grounded out to David Wright his first time up. The Astros have had just 2 hits. Dicky has averaged just 2.2 walks per 9 innings this year. Remember the other day when the Mets drew 7 leadoff walks in one game? You know that Dicky has not walked the leadoff batter in an inning in any of his last 11 starts. That's how a knuckleballer keeps his manager sane.
Well, he's got a 2.21 walk to 9 inning ratio. And that's his best career mark. That's pretty darn good, let me tell you, for any kind of pitcher.
just had a special year in so many respects. Guy who was an afterthought, picked up as a minor league free agent. Popped up, shallow right, and Pregame shading his eyes. 2 out. I mean, R.A. was one of the first cuts in spring training this year. He was given absolutely no consideration. And it wasn't until he put in 6 strong weeks in Buffalo that the Mets' eyes were finally open when they were having troubles in their rotation with John Maine and Oliver Perez to bring up Dicky and give him a shot.
Well, opportunity knocked, and he stuck his foot in the door and the other foot behind it and shut the door behind him. That's always a good story. It's good to see perseverance.
And he's a special guy, too. I mean,
he's a good guy, no question.
He's a Renaissance man, is what he is. I mean, you don't see too many ball players who tell you if they hadn't been ball players, they would have been an English professor. He might be the first. Jason Castro fouls it off, and it's 1-1. Castro drilled one over the head of Pregame for a double and scored the Astros run in the 3rd.
Slightly to pull in the outfield, straight up on the infield.
Two and one with the pitcher Norris on deck.
Actually, C.B. Buckner is having a pretty good day behind the plate.
Pulled foul. Well, let's do a Toyota text poll, shall we, based on our conversation earlier. Do you think the Mets should entertain the idea of trading Reyes or Wright? Reyes, Wright, both, neither?
It's a good text poll.
Text 57508 or visit sny.tv to register your opinion. So I'll be very interested to see what our viewing audience comes up with here.
A little food for thought.
2-2 to Castro. Bounce toward third. Reyes Wright has to retreat and has no play. He was playing well off the line against the left-hand batter, and I don't know if he had come up with it cleanly if he would have gotten Castro at first.
Well, I don't think Castro runs that well, and as just on the exchange, I think David felt he had to rush the throw. I'm not sure. He might have had time to set, plant and set off the runner. Laid out of the box.
It'll be an infield hit for Castro. Now the bases are loaded with 2 out. And the pitcher Norris, who has 6 hits and 1 RBI this year. And the knuckleball has him in a whole 0-1. Norris, a lifetime 180 hitter in the majors. He grew up in Houston. Grounded toward the middle, but there is Luis Hernandez to make the flip to Castillo, and that gets Dicky through the top of the 4th. 2 hits, a walk, and 3 left. Mets are up 4-1. His top New York sports stories straight from a team of diverse personalities as passionate about New York sports as you are. Daily News Live, Wheelhouse, and Loudmouths, all part of the New York Sports Local. Weekdays starting at 5 on SNY. Here's your Mets upcoming schedule. Remember, all Mets games on SNY are available in HD, presented by IOTV. And if you're not near a TV, listen to every Mets game on Sports Radio 66 WFAN. The Mets leave after the game today for Atlanta, where they open a 4-game series tomorrow night. Then 3 in Chicago and 3 in Washington before the Mets finally get home.
4 straight day games. Chicago has 3, then the Labor Day Monday in Washington, and a getaway day Wednesday with a day game.
How about the night game in Atlanta Thursday night, late night flight, then day game in Chicago on Friday? How did that happen?
But it's a 2:20. It's a little better when it's a 2:20.
Well, it's 1:20 local time.
That's true. Well,
I mean,
if you get in at 1:20, it's not so bad. Even though you lose the hour, you'll be in bed by what, 2:30.
What do you if you have a rain delay or an extra game?
Let's not even entertain that idea.
I mean, come on.
That's in the realm of possibilities in Atlanta.
I'll tell you what, for all the power that the Players Association has, and it's the most powerful union in the history of organized labor. Val Tippin is 1 and 2 to Tolley. How come they can't figure out how to mandate that getaway days are day games?
Well, people don't. Ownership does not want to have a businessman special during the week for television ratings.
I understand that.
And just getting people in the ballpark, period.
There's the 1-2 fouled away. But, you got players dragging into a hotel at 2-3 in the morning and having to play a day game that day. That's not conducive to presenting a quality product, is it?
But that was always why the Cubs had always collapsed in August and September. That was always been the bane of Wrigley Field before they put the lights in. I mean, for me, if I'm the owner of the Cubs, every first game of a homestand, unless it's an off day before, is a night game for my team. If they're coming off the road, it's a night game. Period. End of story.
Well, they're not allowed to play Friday night games. That's part of the deal they worked out with the city of Chicago. They're allowed to play a certain number of night games, but no Fridays. Tolley checks the swing, and did he go? He did not. And it's a full count. It seems at one time they played like 3 o'clock games, 4 o'clock Eastern.
And you start getting the shadows there too. It's tough. It's tough to play in the shadows. I mean, even the 5:30 start. Remember the 5:30 twilight doubleheaders?
To me, though, that's not the issue. The issue is that game in Atlanta Thursday. That should be a day game.
Well, there should have been a day game on getaway day in Houston on the last road trip going to Pittsburgh.
Yeah, but at least it was a night game the next day.
Okay, I understand. Okay, yeah.
But you know what? The Braves did that to themselves earlier this year. They played, I think it was their first series of the year at home. They played a night game in Atlanta and then flew to San Francisco and played a day game the next day.
And won.
Line to the left, and Tolley's got himself a base hit. So Tolley's on base for the second time, and the Mets have a leadoff base runner in the 4th.
Well, it's a little bit of a flare here. And he gets jammed. Josh got a little inside out a little bit. And there, the 2-inch choke-up really helps him. He reminds me a lot of the Milkmaid type player who backed up for Manny Sanguin all those years with Pittsburgh. And singles hitter, good defensive catcher, didn't run well, but could hit for average. And
now Luis Hernandez, second at bat.
Well, you see not much of a difference. He's even more down and more in. Sometimes the hitters get you. That was not a hard hit ball. It's a bit of a dork. You'll take it. It's a line drive in the paper tomorrow.
Hernandez lines one the other way, but that's right at Michaels. So he hit it a lot harder than Tolley did with less of a result. So 1 out and 1 on. And now Ari Dicky will come up to bunt, or maybe swing the bat, which he did effectively his first time up when he singled up the middle to drive in 2 runs. 7 hits and 5 RBIs now for Dicky, who also has 6 sacrifices to his credit.
Not aggressively into the corners. Chris Johnson, I don't know what he's thinking. That's the third baseman, of course. Yeah, creep in a little more.
Eddie Albert, Jaja Gabor.
Green Acres. Arnold the Pig. Kids have no idea what we're talking about.
No, they don't.
Well, maybe. Is Green Acres on,
I'm sure it's on
TV Land or Nickelodeon or somewhere? 0-2.
You know that Eddie Arnold was
Eddie Albert.
Albert, excuse me. I'm thinking of the country western singer. Was a great service officer in World War II. Another one of those guys in Hollywood, that older generation that served during the war that you never knew about. And since the internet's come around, you find out all those guys that served in their country in World War II.
Dicky takes a hack on 0-2. Dicky just keeping himself alive with an emergency hack.
And he's just a little Punch and Judy right here. Just that's a little Matty Alou. Hey, whatever it takes. Put it in play. You got a chance to find a hole. You already have. With that base hit back in the second.
When he hit that ball in the second inning, it looked like a double play ball, but Jeff Blum just kind of watched it go up the middle. And the Mets were happy to take that.
In the air to pretty deep left field. Michael's going back. He's got room
to make the grab. So Dicky making a bid. He has not hit a major league home run. Well, fans appreciate the effort and give him a nice hand.
Well, he'd be coming back in the dugout and everybody would be kind of saying, hey, track power. Those of you that don't know what track power means, it's the warning track. When you got track power, it's all you can hit it to is a track.
Well, Santana has set the standard this year. The only Met pitcher to homer. Dan Warthen enjoying a little laugh with Dicky. So here's Pagan, 0 for 2, but he drove in a run with a ground out his last time up. Still hitless in this series. Pagan 0 for 11 in the 3 games. Bud Norris is about to throw his 80th pitch, working in the 4th inning. Nearly as smooth sailing as it was for him in Houston against the Mets.
Angel out in front. You can just tell his body language. He doesn't feel comfortable at all at the plate. I tell you what, he had a terrific 4.5 months of the season. And it's hard. Let me tell you, it's hard to hit 300 every month. You've got to have a slump once in a while. It's finally got his first slump of the season right here, Angel. He's fighting, he's trying to fight his way through it.
And when it comes this late in the year, when you're already maybe a bit fatigued, because for Angel, he's never played this much before, is it harder to get it back for that last month?
Well, the thing is, I think, once you become established and you, whether you're a 280 hitter or a 310 hitter or a 330 hitter, you're going to go in slumps, and you're used to going into them and getting out of them. When it's a first-time experience, you got to overcome the experience there, and that's a base hit right there, and that's a good at bat by Pagan, because he has trouble with off-speed pitches from the left side of the plate.
So Angel overcomes his series over.
And that's a good pitch too. That is a pretty good pitch. He stayed back, still out in front, but with a pretty good off-speed pitch. But getting back to my point here is that as the years go by, okay, when I first came up, I didn't know what I was. I didn't know I was a 300 hitter or a 250 hitter, 260 hitter, 220 hitter. So when you go in those slumps, initially, now Pagan's playing every day for the first time, and it's all in uncharted waters for him.
Luis Castillo takes a strike.
You see this pitch, the IO pitch differential, it's out of the strike zone. It is outside and it is low. That's a good sinker. That's a good pitch. The pitcher just got to tip his hat there to the hitter.
Pagan 31 stolen bases this year, tied for second in the National League, and certainly a place to run here. With Castillo at the plate, Louis has walked and dumped a single into right field that drove in a run. There goes Pagan. Castro's throw to second base. Not in time. Tolle holds at third. Pagan has his 32nd stolen base of the year.
Good pitch to throw here for Castro, and it is a strong throw, but a little bit off the mark, but it wouldn't have made a difference. Too good a jump by Pagan. Nice shot right there in that slow-mo.
Angel Campos keeping his eye on the play, making sure Pagan didn't come off the bag. So 2 in scoring position now for Castillo. And Louis bounces one slowly. The pitcher grabs it, and Norris takes it to first.
Nice play.
So the Mets with 2 hits in the inning leave 2 in scoring position through 4 at Citi Field. 4-1 New York. We go to the 5th inning. The Mets up 4-1. You'll find a number of significant enhancements out at Citi Field this season, thanks to the quality and skill of New York City union carpenters and contractors. Let's go to Kevin to learn more.
Well, out here, guys, on the now called Shea Bridge, this is really the hangout. Anybody that sits anywhere in the ballpark can walk through here and either hang out and watch the game, or you get to the food areas in center field. And they had the nice naming ceremony at the beginning of the year to name it officially the William Shea Bridge. And, of course, Mr. Shea responsible really for bringing baseball back to the National League in New York after the Dodgers and Giants left. And a lot of those things done around the ballpark. Of course, they honor Tom Seaver, Gil Hodges, Casey Stengel. They all have their entrances to the ballpark. But the Shea Bridge, I think, kind of works. Carry on that name, guys. Hey, one other thing I wanted to tell you, too. Alexis here really helped me out. I was missing an inning on my scorecard, and I copied off her. So thank her for that.
It's good. It's always nice to have a partner that you can ask so you don't have to write WW on your scorecard.
I try to avoid that when I can, Garrett.
What distracted you, Kev?
I was walking. I had to walk from place to place. You know, I had to get a Verizon Ask the Booth on the air, Keith. That's hard work.
By the way, that was an excellent question that young man asked. Yes. The Verizon Ask the Booth. It was very provocative.
He got a little nervous at the end. I had to help him through, but I knew where he was going. We had talked.
Well, Kevin, you got to realize he's with such a personality as you. He was overwhelmed.
He was excited. I mean, Keith, first time here from Indiana. That's a big deal.
1 and 2 to board. Well, you did a great job screening your questioner there.
Thank you, guys. Take the pride in that.
I mean, as Bourne takes a call, 3rd strike. So the hard knuckleball gets Michael Bourne looking. 2nd strikeout of the day for R.A. Dickey.
Well, I don't know what he was looking for. I didn't break that much. That's a good strike.
Pittsburgh paints overhead camera. So Dicky has the first out in the 5th. Here's Tommy Manzella bluffing a bunt and taking high. Manzella's grounded to 3rd and fly to right. Manzella's a rookie. He's not all that young. He's 27 years old. He's a college kid out of Tulane, 3rd round draft pick by the Astros in 05. And they do not question his glove, but his bat has been the issue for Manzella. Looked good last night, picking up 3 hits. And he hits this one up the middle. And the Astros have their 5th hit off Dicky. So a 1-out single for Manzella in front of the big bats of Pence and Lee.
3 hits yesterday. Gets him another start today. Another knuckleball that stayed up.
So now Pence has been up twice, grounded out twice.
Dicky gives up base hits. He came into this game with 126 in the 3rd, giving up 117 hits. But of course does not give up walks. And he has the innate ability of getting tougher when men are on base. He can pitch out of jams.
And despite the fact that he gave up late home runs in each of his last 2 starts, he really has kept the ball in the ballpark very well. There's a fastball that misses.
And that usually holds true for knuckleballers. It's that knuckleballer that doesn't break, that stays right there on a tee for a hitter, and they usually get hurt with long ball.
But only 9 home runs this year allowed in 131 innings. That's pretty good. And now he's behind on Pence, 3-0. RA has walked a couple today, struck out 2, allowed a run on 5 hits. Pence swinging on 3-0. They're going to get a fastball. He did, but fouled it back. Here's your Domino's 5th inning recap. R.A. Dickey's 2-run single up the middle in the 2nd inning gave the Mets the lead. They tacked on 2 more runs in that inning. And Dickey has done the rest himself, holding the Astros to just the 1 run on Michael Bourne's RBI single in the 3rd. Manzella does not have a stolen base this year. Three and 1 to Pence, and he gets another fastball and takes it for a strike. So he got to 3-0, got 2 fastballs, fouled 1 back, and took 1 down the middle. And now it's 3-2.
Well, I don't know what's going on there, but you got to maybe look for a fastball, and it's 3-1. If you don't get it, knuckleball, spit on it.
See if Manzella runs. He does not, and the knuckleball bounced to 3rd. Wright will go to 2nd with it and gets the force play. Nicely done by David to have that internal clock going and knowing he still had enough time to get the force. That's the 2nd out.
Well, one thing you can always do on a slow ground ball here is you can see as the ball's coming to you, you already know you got time to look and pick up where the runner is, and then get refocused on the ground ball and know whether you have a shot at 2nd or not.
So really, when the ground ball's coming toward you, you have time to peek and get back to the ball?
You can peek and get back, yes. And you can also, you have that visual, and you got peripheral vision too. You should.
So 2 out with Carlos Lee at the plate. Lee is lined to 3rd and popped to short 0 for 2. Denting some of his big numbers against Dicky. He had been 7 for 11 coming in. He lifts this one out to left field, and in comes Carter to call, and that retires the side. Halfway through at Citi Field, 4-1 New York. Mets have the heart of the batting order up. Carlos Beltran, Chris Carter, and David Wright against Bud Norris. Mets scored all 4 of their runs in the second inning. Beltran 0 for 2 today. Popped to short, struck out. Just 2 for his last 17. Beltran is now 135 at bats deep in his season.
You know, we were talking about Vinegar Ben Mizell yesterday. We forgot to mention that wasn't he an original Met?
Yes, he was. I don't know if he was an original Met, but he was with that
team.
62, 63 edition.
Check on that, David.
Was he? He might have been a pitching coach for the early day Mets too. I'm not sure. Norris misses away, and it's 3-1 to Beltran.
I got that little tidbit of information from Bill the Baker.
You might just have to let people know who Bill the Baker is.
Bill is really a Yankee fan. Bill, I'm very disappointed.
Shallow left center. And Michaels has it for the first out. More on Bill the Baker in a moment. New York Mets baseball on SNY is brought to you by Pepsi Max. 0 calories, maximum Pepsi taste. By Lexus. And by Blimpie, America's sub shop.
You want to give a bio on Bill?
No, you go right ahead.
Well, Bill's at every game, home game here, folks, and he has been going to games since I can remember. He sits in the press room and he goes over to the Yankee Stadium when the Yankees are home. The Steinbrenners, actually, they gave him a World Series ring, if I'm correct, which Bill wears proudly. He keeps score of every game. He's got one of these minds that knows all about statistics. Yankee, Met, and almost everything, but mainly focus on Mets and Yanks.
Carter hits it out to right center, and Pence battling the sun.
Wow.
Stays with it to grab it. That was an adventure. He never saw that till the last possible moment.
I think he had the general vicinity and lost it for a sec and then found it again. He's in trouble, right? Oh, he lost it right there. Pretty good recovery.
The Ultramo edition of Hunter Pence and the Sun.
Well, even at Old Shea, September, late August, September sun's always murder. And you can see the shadows on, there's the sun right there and up in the sky, and you can just look at the shadows of the players. They're directly behind them, so the sun's a little bit off behind home plate to the third base side a little bit.
Right smacks one to short. Manzella with a nice stop, and he throws out right. Vinegar Ben Mizell, 62 Mets, but not an original Met. Started that year with the Pirates. Traded for Jim Marshall.
Bill, no more misinformation.
Well, I'm told there's been a very heavy turnout for the Toyota Text Poll, so we're keeping the polls open late. It's kind of like Ohio on Election Day. The text poll question was, can we throw it up there again? Should the Mets entertain the idea of trading Reyes or Wright? Need to get our A, B, C's, and D's straight. Make sure everybody has the right letters. Off the bag, and Ike Davis stays with it to retire Jeff Blum for the first out. Here it is again. Should the Mets entertain the idea of trading Reyes or Wright? A for Reyes, B for Wright, C for both, and D for neither.
Text 57508 or www.sny.tv. Is that case sensitive?
You know, I think you can probably leave out the www. I think we've reached that point in our internet development. Well, Wright has been a Met since 2004, Reyes since 2003, and they truly are the cornerstones of the franchise. Michaels takes a strike. Michaels has walked in both of his at-bats. The only 2 walks issued today by R.A. Dickey. There's a lot of run on 5 hits. That one eludes Tolley, and it's 1-1. So what happens on the rare days when the Mets and Yankees play at the same time?
With Bill? Bill?
Yeah.
I think Bill's at Yankee Stadium.
Oh, such a kick in the pants.
It's okay. We like Bill. We're much more kinder and gentler over here in Flushing.
You know how he got his name, Bill the Baker?
Tell me.
He used to work for Entenmann's.
Ah.
Popped up on the infield. And Hernandez takes charge for the second out. I know you didn't grow up in New York, but did you ever partake in a Entenmann's sour cream chip and nut loaf?
Never heard of it.
Oh my gosh. You got to try it.
Really?
It's heaven.
It's a song. It's heaven. Nope, we won't go there. Weren't you supposed to kind of go to Kevin or something, or no?
Eventually, we'll throw it wherever we're supposed to throw it. This is a casual broadcast, in case you hadn't noticed. Chris Johnson, the batter, and he takes a fastball for a strike. Johnson is 0 for 2. Or sometimes, you know, you can be listening to Steve Summers driving home, and Bill will call Steve.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, Bill gave Al, camera number 2 man, a big plug yesterday in the broadcast. Did you hear it? Mentioned Al, camera number 2 up here in his show last night.
Summers did?
Yes.
Really?
Al got airtime.
After we talked about him?
Yeah.
It's just Summers copying us. Out to center field, and Beltran takes care of it. It's a 1-2-3 inning for R.A. Dickey, his second of the day. 4-1 Mets.
Of today has really been evaluating this team and looking forward to next year. And I think You could add to that conversation Oliver Perez. Look at Perez and what he is doing, or really what he's not doing. He is last pitched August the 1st. August the 1st, that is. 24 games without an appearance on an active roster. That's the longest in Major League Baseball this year. And I talked to him today. He's only been up in the bullpen to even warm up twice in that entire time. The last time was on the road trip in Houston, guys. And I asked him, from your perspective, what's going on? We know he obviously hasn't had a good year of any sort on the field. He said, look, I want to pitch. I'm working like I'm a member of the bullpen, working out like I'm a member of the bullpen, but, there's nothing I can do. I don't know what's going on, but I don't think it's fair. That's for sure. Guys, and the question is, that's Perez's stance, says he hasn't been talked to by any member of the front office or Jerry Manuel, and yet here he is taking up a roster spot. It's just a bizarre situation. Go back to you.
Well, I don't think there's really much to say. I think performance speaks louder than anything else. When Oliver Perez has been given an opportunity this year, he hasn't performed. Ike Davis grounds one toward the middle of the diamond. Jeff Blum throws him out, one away. Let's check in with Chris Carlin. He's standing by with a New York State Smokers Quit Line game break. All right, thanks, Chris. Here's Josh Tolle, who's had a good day at the plate. A walk, a base hit. He scored a run. Facing Bud Norris, and takes it high for ball one. The Astros have the bullpen going. Gustavo Chacin is up. I think it's mostly the best way to characterize the Oliver Perez situation is it's a matter of butting heads. I mean, Ollie pitched horribly, was asked to go to the minor leagues, and refused. The Mets found an injury, put him on the disabled list, kept him in the minors on rehab as long as they could, and then were basically forced to put him back on the roster. They gave him a couple of chances. He didn't pitch well. And if you're Jerry Manuel, what are you supposed to do? Put him in games that matter and have him pitch poorly again? I mean, he'll pitch him in the 14-1 game. That was the last game he pitched in 28 days ago.
Well, I just think it's a very inappropriate comment. I mean, he should be thankful he's in a big league uniform, to be honest with you.
Tolle drives one deep right field, headed to the wall, and it's out of here! Off the Pepsi porch! Josh Tolle with his second Major League home run. And it's 5-1 New York. Now Tolle got a couple of days off from starting, and he has responded with a big day today.
Down and in. And middle, and down and in and middle. So that's his. Any left-hand hitter loves that ball. Nicely done.
Luis Hernandez pops up the first pitch. And Chris Johnson in foul ground to grab it for the second out.
Well, he's been pitching pretty good, settling down after the 4-run second, and just made one mistake.
For every home run hit at Citi Field this season, Stuart Rohr and Kinray's Home Runs for Charity program will donate $1,000 to the Mets Foundation. Kinray has donated $37,000 so far in 2010. R.A. Dicky drove in the first two Met runs with a base hit up the middle, then put his power swing on one and sent Michaels deep into left to catch a fly ball. You know, the other half of the Oliver Perez equation is the fact that the Mets have Perez under contract for next year, and up until this point have been unwilling to release him. Now, other organizations have had similar situations where they've had to eat fat contracts when things haven't worked out, but at least to this point, the Mets have decided not to do that. And I don't know what they're going to do for next year. I mean, they owe him $12 million. They can't possibly allow this situation to fester into next season.
Well, I'm not of the camp that's going to second guess, like everybody has, Omar Minaya on signing Perez a 3-year deal. Pitching was at such a premium.
And Dicky has his second hit of the game. Well, R.A. continues to swing the bat well. That's his 8th hit of the year.
But, getting to the present, I think it started a while ago. I mean, they gave the 3-year deal to Perez. He came to spring training out of shape. Didn't endear himself with the front office. If he's saying it's not fair, he has not pitched well, to say the least. And there comes a certain time when you got to look yourself in the mirror.
That's going to be all for Bud Norris. He goes 5 2/3. And Gustavo Chacín, the left-hander, will come in to face Angel Pagan. The call to the bullpen brought to you by Lincoln Mercury. Mets with a 5-1 lead in the 6th. We'll be right back.
Veteran has kind of transformed himself. Used to be a very hard thrower, not having a good year. Sucked up a loss in that extra inning game, that 14-inning win on Game 3 in Houston, where he walked 3 guys, 4 in the inning, 1 intentional.
All right, Dicky, his 3rd 2-hit game of the year. He's at first with 2 out. Angel Pagan turns around, breaks his bat, flies one into shallow left center. Michaels with a dive, can't get it. Dicky stops at second base, and Angel Pagan has his 2nd hit of the game. Lost a bat, gained a hit, as Michaels made the effort but came up a little shy.
Well, you got to think of last night's defense where they had
Jason
Bourgeois out there would have made that play. You sacrifice defense for a little more offense with Michaels. Not bad base running by Dicky there. He just put the brakes on. Oh gosh!
Well, you certainly don't want to make the 3rd out at third base.
Well, he's like he's walking on eggs out there, running on eggs, I should say.
There's Castillo, a walk and an RBI single today, 1 for 2. One and 1 to Castillo. He'll be batting right-handed for the first time today. Dicky is at second. Pagan at first with 2 out. A run is in on Josh Tolley's home run with Beltran on deck. Gustavo Chacín, now 29 years old, broke in with Toronto in 04. His first full year 05, he won 13 games. He was a star in the making.
Castillo out to right. Pence going back to make the grab. Pence playing very shallow, and Castillo almost burned him. So the inning is over, but the Mets had a run. Josh Tolle impressively with his second major league home run off the front of the Pepsi porch to make it 5-1 New York. We know Gooden is one. We think Seaver's another. Who's the third? Craig Swan.
That's right. Yes, I knew it was someone. I remember that. Swan, very hard thrower.
What year was that he won the ERA title?
That was
82? No, it was earlier than
I think it was in the late 70s.
78, 79, somewhere.
When they were the Stems.
Jason Castro leads off in the 7th against R.A. Dickey and takes a knuckleball for a strike.
Swanee's a Rolfer now.
A Rolfer, yeah. He was Rolfing when he was still playing.
There he is.
He was a really good pitcher for some really bad teams.
He threw hard. Wasn't he an Arizona State guy? Didn't he go to Arizona State?
You might be right.
Not sure. And that was back in the day when Arizona State had a program on the same level as USC.
Castro hits one slowly. Luis Hernandez comes in. And Castro retired for the first time today. That's 6 in a row set down by Dickey. Now Brent Wallace will pinch hit. 1978 was the year that Greg Swan led the league in ERA. And yes, he did go to Arizona State.
I thought so.
That's before Barry Bonds played there.
It was a very good baseball program. That was before.
Jeff Fulcino out of UConn is up in the bullpen for the Astros. Here's Wallace, who started the opening game of this series, went 1 for 3, but he's really been struggling. Acquired from Toronto right before the trading deadline in the wake of the Roy Oswalt deal. He turned around one of the players they acquired from the Phillies for Oswalt and sent him to the Blue Jays to get Wallace, who also went to Arizona State, where he was a teammate of Ike Davis.
Well, when Swanee went to Arizona State, they were an independent, I believe. They were not part of the Pac-8.
Well, that's right. Before the 2 Arizona schools came in to make the Pac-10.
They were independent, and they had a great football program here, Arizona State, and baseball. And they got L.A. is such a big area and has such great athletes that the kids that didn't go to UCLA or SC went to Arizona State. And they had a terrific baseball program back then, and also football program. But SC didn't want to play Arizona State. Some of those teams.
Wallace lifts one to shallow center. In comes Beltran to make the grab. 2 out. Don't miss your chance to bid on a night with the SNY Mets broadcast team. You and a guest could have dinner with us. We promise to mind our manners. Then catch the Mets Pirates game in the SNY Suite at Citi Field on Wednesday, September 15th. All proceeds benefit the high school basketball team scheduled to play in the 2011 SNY Invitational. Just go to sny.tv/charity auction and bid today. By the way, do you have any idea what your numbers were against Craig Swan?
No.
Bourne grounds one to Castillo. 1-2-3 inning. You had 39 at bats against him. He had 436. Good for you. The warm side in New York. Here are your results of the Toyota Tex poll. Met fans love their cornerstones. Should the Mets entertain the idea of trading Reyes or Wright?
There you go.
Nearly 2/3 say neither.
How about that?
How about that? Indeed. A few more for Reyes than for Wright. 14% say both. 63% say keep them. And you can certainly understand the sentiment.
Yes, of course.
Two guys who are just coming into their prime, 27, 28 years old.
I thought that was a very pertinent Tex poll there. One of the best of the year. And there's Jeff Fulcino. He's a big horse. He's having a terrific year.
We have to feature him, because, SNY and University of Connecticut now have this big deal going. And Fulcino's a UConn guy, so talk him up.
Well, I'm saying he's having a terrific year, folks. You see that ERA, 6.02. He had some arm problems early. Since he's come back off the DL, he has been lights out. And he's a big guy, throws hard. I like his stuff.
Well done. That's good.
Covered myself there.
Those folks in Connecticut will be very happy.
But it's the truth.
Well, you only speak the truth. I wasn't encouraging you to, to fudge.
I was shocked to see that 602 because I've just been looking at his numbers since he's been back on the DL, off the DL, and he's pitched well against the Mets.
Crowd up and stretching today. Trying to keep cool on a warm afternoon. Who knows how many more hot days we're going to have in New York. Although they say this week is going to be rather steamy.
This will be summer's last roar.
We're going to Atlanta. It might be a little cooler there than it's going to be in New York.
I'm all for it.
Imagine that. I think you and Ronnie are both in Atlanta, right?
Yes.
4 games? Hey, that'll be fun. Haven't done that in a while.
We got Ronnie one game in Washington. He's not going to be in Chicago.
Well, that booth only holds a person and a half in Chicago. We couldn't possibly do that.
But we love it there, don't we?
Of course.
I love that park.
Carlos Beltran 0 for 3 today. Mets with a 5-1 lead as they bat the 7th. Carlos has popped to short, struck out, fly to left. And he lifts Fulchino's pitch into center field. And Michael Bourne camped under it for the first out. So 1 out and nobody on. Chris Carter coming to the plate. Let's check in with Kevin.
The Animals got a base hit tonight, guys, in the cleanup spot. And remember in Pittsburgh, the first game of that 3-game series was a cleanup guy, had a single, had a home run, couple RBIs of that game. You know, Carter told me that before that game, Terry Manuel came up to him and said, listen, you're in the cleanup spot, but you're not a slugger. I don't need you to hit 4 home runs. Just go out and be a hitter. Go out and get base hits. And Carter said, you know what, that really relaxed me. It kind of put me at ease because I feel like I've had some good at-bats this year and able to do that in a game when you have 4 at-bats coming up. And I asked him to evaluate his season, guys. He said, well, look, I can tell you this. Over my short career, I've heard good and bad from scouts, good and bad from coaches, but I think in my own eyes I'm successful if I try hard. And I know that's hokey, but coming from Carter, you really believe it because he is sincere about it. And I guess, guys, spinning it forward, Keith, when you look forward to Carter, what do you see from him? Have you been pleased with what you've seen with his ability to come off the bench? He's got 11 pinch hits this year, 267 as a pinch hitter. What do you see from him going forward as a member of this organization?
Well, Kev, I see him as a guy that could probably benefit by learning how to play first base. It can be another position for him. He's certainly a 5th outfielder. And you're one of your number 1 guy off the bench to swing the bat. He's dangerous and he's got power. You always want a little bit of power off the bench. Late in the game, you need a pinch hit. You're down a couple runs, men on base. As he walks there, sometimes you need that power bat off the bench, and he provides that. And he has a great attitude, as you said, Kevin.
So 1 out and 1 on, and David Wright, the batter. David 0 for 2 in a walk today.
Well, David got undressed back in the 2nd inning. Got a pitch under his chin that dropped him off of Bud Norris. That was some serious chin music.
That was the pitch that was ball 4 to him. And he's had a rough day since that. David's 1 for 9 in this series.
Well, David, that is about average distance away from the plate. And here's the pitch that pretty much undressed him. That'll get your attention. All's fair in love and war in baseball.
And again, it wasn't head high, so it's not as though Norris was doing something untoward there. Broken bat. Tough play from Manzella, charging. And he got him at first base. Nicely done by Manzella to throw out right for the 2nd out.
Well, comes in charging on the run throw and just nips him. Well, you wonder if the Angel Sanchez was playing shortstop. That would have been a strong enough throw to get David.
So 2 out. Carter now at 2nd. Brad Mills coming out with the left-hand hitter coming up. He's going to take out the right-hander Fulchino and bring in the left-hander Fernando Abad. We'll be right back. Here's your Mass Mutual Mets box score. Mets have put up 5 runs today. The best line belongs to the guy on the bottom. R.A. Dicky, 2 for 3, couple of RBIs, drove in the first 2 Met runs. And now the 24-year-old lefty Fernando Abad takes the mound for the Houston Astros.
8 years in the minor leagues for this man, finally getting his first shot. Took the place of Mr. Lindstrom, who was put on the DL when the Mets were in Houston.
Starts Davis off with a curveball for a strike. Davis doubled down the right field line, scored a run in the second, struck out and grounded out since. Carter at second with 2 down. Mets have had 9 hits today. And another curveball, and it's 1-1. Josh Tolde, who homered his last time up, on deck. Bud Norris went 5 2/3, allowed 5 runs and 8 hits. Gustavo Chacin for a third, Jeff Fulcino for 2/3, and now Fernando Abad. And he nicks the outside corner with a fastball, 1-2. Meanwhile, no signs of action in the Mets bullpen, so R.A. Dickey, with 106 pitches under his belt, will be going to the mound for the 8th inning. One-two to Davis, and he pops it up. The catcher Castro puts it away to end the inning. So a walk in, 1 left, 7 in the books now at Citi Field. Mets in the rubber game of this series, leading 5-1. Up in the Mets bullpen, but just watching right now as R.A. Dickey takes the mound for the 8th inning. R.A. has pitched at least 7 innings in 4 straight starts now. Tommy Manzella to lead off in the 8th. Dickey's allowed just a run on 5 hits, walked 2, struck out 2. And Manzella takes a knuckleball for a strike. Manzella 1 for 3, single to center his last time up. Dickey gave up a run in the 3rd after the Mets had staked him to a 4-run lead. I say the Mets did. He did half of it. And Manzella has his 2nd hit of the day. Hit number 6 against Dickey. Let's check in with the studio. Chris Carlin is there with the New York State Smokers Quit Line game break. second straight tough start for Wainwright.
Yep. And the Cardinals, when they get the two big guys out there, and Carpenter and Wainwright, they can't afford to have them lose.
Well, Dickey's going to exit after giving up the leadoff hit in the 8th. Bobby Parnell comes in to face Hunter Pence with a man on. First pitch fastball blown by him. 0-1. R.A. Dickey with a terrific outing today, throwing a 2-run single. He had 2 hits on the day. And a very comforting afternoon for Dickey as Parnell makes his second appearance in this series.
He's throwing hard.
Bobby was asked to try and get a save 2 nights ago. That didn't really work out. He struck out Pence to start that 9th inning, but then gave up a couple of base hits and was pulled in favor of Isanori Takahashi, who wound up with the save in a 2-1 win. This time Parnell brought on in the 8th with a 4-run lead. Pence is 0 for 3, has hit the ball on the ground 3 times. And a double play ball, perhaps. Hernandez to Castillo on to first. No, he got it. Close play. And the Mets double up Pence. 2 out.
Well, he just ate up Pence right there. 2 fastballs, get ahead, and a slider, and a good one. And Pence just not a good swing on this one. Taylor made. Fastball sets up everything, particularly when you got a fastball of the velocity of Mr. Parnell.
So quickly 2 out and nobody on. And here's Carlos Lee, who's 0 for 3. So Dickey gives up just 1 run in 7 innings of work. That lowers his earned run average for the year to 2.57.
Does it make him eligible now? Enough innings pitched?
He will be eligible. He'll be in tomorrow's rankings, and he'll be in there. Let's see, he's got 133, so he'll be in there for 3 more days. He won't make it to his next start in the top 10. You have to have as many innings as your team has played games to be eligible.
I did not know that.
Yeah. Well, it's 162 innings.
I did not know that.
For the ERA title, and when they put out the daily rankings, it's based on if you have at least 1 inning for every game that your team has played. So the Mets have played 130 games. Dickey now has 133 innings. So he'll be in the rankings for 3 days. In foul ground, David Wright. Arm's not quite long enough, but he made some friends.
When Carlos Lee struck out in that Houston series when Parnell came in throwing the 100 miles an hour, I walked into the park and I walked in at the same time as Carlos Lee, and Carlos Lee said, "Look, I don't care how hard they throw." And he was throwing 100 miles an hour, but he goes, "When it's straight, I don't care. I'll dial it up." He goes, "But he had movement, that sink running into my hands." He goes, "That's unfair."
Up the middle, and Lee has a base hit. 99 miles an hour, and he was able to dial it up.
A little bit off the end of the bat. Lee is a middle-in hitter. You can pitch him away. You can see he got it on the end. He stays away. He's off the plate. But he likes that ball middle in.
It's a strong man.
Well, he's a big horse. That's what he is.
El Caballo.
Yep.
Here's Jeff Blum, who's 1 for 3.
Can plow the back 9. That's a strong man.
Blum is 1 for 3 today. Single to right back in the 4th. But his lack of mobility in the field might have caused the difference in this game.
Yep, the defense is everything, Gary. And you kind of gets lost. If things happen early in the game, you can lose a ball game in the first, second, third inning, and you don't read about it in the paper. And a little thing like that, you got a guy in there for his bat, and you sacrifice defense, and sure enough, the ball finds him in a critical moment in the game, early.
Mets had the bases loaded, 1 out, scoreless game in the 2nd inning. And R.A. Dickey hit a ground ball toward the middle that looked like it should have been handled by the second baseman. And Blum not only didn't get it, he didn't really make an effort for it. It brought in 2 runs. The Mets wound up with 4 in that inning. Blum now has his 2nd hit of the game. Lee turns second. He'll go on to third as Frank Core picks it up. His throw to second base is not in time, and Blum has a double. It's another ball that Carlos Beltran was unable to get to in the gap that he would have eaten up in past years.
No question. And he just not moving. Now, mobility is not there. Carlos eats that ball up. He cuts it off. It's a single. Pagan's in center field. Pagan cuts that ball off. So it's apparent that, Carlos has just lost a cut step or 2.
I asked the question yesterday of Jerry Manuel whether anybody in the organization has approached Carlos to at least have a preliminary conversation about moving to a corner outfield position next year. And the answer I got was no. That whatever it is that the Mets decide to do with Beltran, the conversation will wait till after the season. Which, is unfortunate. I don't know whether Carlos is going to be back here next year. I don't know if the Mets are going to try and deal that big contract to another team. But it would certainly behoove everybody, if the Mets are going to be out of the race in September, to give it a shot. Move them over to left field or move them over to right field and at least let them get a look at that position and let the Mets and other teams get a look at him there as well, don't you think?
That would be that would not be a bad thing. And I think he would have better defense. I think Carlos is always honest in his interviews. I think he knows now that he's not getting the balls. He knew clearly that last year, before he got hurt, he cuts that ball off easily.
Jason Michaels swinging and missing, and a slider from Parnell. So the Astros, with 1 hit here, could put themselves right back in this ball game, with Lee at third and Blum at second, 2 out. With the Mets up 5-1. And that's below the knees, 1-1.
That is a strike. And C.B. Buckner has been calling that low strike the whole game. That's when he didn't give right there. He's called a good game behind the plate today.
Michaels has already walked twice today, 0 for 1.
See, Parnell gets hurt when he gets upstairs, and upstairs, Gary, in the strike zone. He doesn't get hurt when he throws that fastball above the letters. where the guys will chase. He gets hurt right at that high strike, but he's very effective when he's down in the strike zone.
He's ahead on Jason Michaels, 1-2.
Step out, doesn't he? Yeah, say. Oh, good slider. Wow. Tin cup, as Ronnie would say.
It's pretty good discipline by Michaels to lay off that pitch. All right, Dicky coming out of this game after 7 innings plus. Parnell gets Michaels to bounce one to Hernandez. Nice big hop, and the inning is over. Terrific outing by Dicky. Middle of the 8th, 5-1 New York. Only on SNY. There your pitchers for tomorrow, brought to you by Mercedes. Pat Mish makes his 4th start for the Mets. 0-3, but he's pitched pretty well. Jair Jurgens, who has struggled with injury and ineffectiveness this year, will go for the Braves.
He's pitched better since coming off the DL.
Although his last start, not very good. Jason Bourgeois takes over in center field. Don't know if something happened to Michael Bourne, but he has left the game. Josh Thole leading off in the 8th inning. Takes a strike. Big day for Thole. A walk, a single, and his 2nd major league home run. Thole getting the start today after Henry Blanco caught the first 2 games of the series. Bourgeois gets right into the game and catches the fly ball. Thole retired for the first time today. Henry getting the day off today. Well deserved. Today is Henry Blanco's 39th birthday.
Happy birthday, Henry.
There are not too many catchers who make it to their 39th birthday in this game.
No.
I believe the only older catcher in the majors, and I might be wrong about this, I think Brad Ausmus is the only active catcher older than Henry Blanco. Ausmus is 40. There's Luis Hernandez taking outside. Pudge Rodriguez is 38. He'll be 39 this winter. And he's amazing because he's still starting at age 38. Hernandez in his first start as a Met, looking for his first hit. Yasunori Takahashi up in the Mets bullpen. Won't be a save situation, but he's been handling the 9th innings. Hernandez batting right-handed for the first time today. Struck out, line to left, foul to third. Mike Hessman has come out on deck to pinch hit for Bobby Parnell. And Hernandez swinging over the changeup, 2-2. Now Abad with the 2-2, and Hernandez fouls it off. I think they should put an L next to his name, because people might get confused.
With what?
Well, you.
Oh, I don't think so. Look at the number. There's no way. He's right-handed too, Garrett.
Well, when they take the luggage off the truck,
that's a problem.
That could be a problem. Into shallow left field, and that's going to fall. And Luis Hernandez has his first hit as a Met.
Well, nice escape from that sand trap. He'll take it, right? Every time. Every time.
So 1 out and 1 on. Now Mike Hessman will pinch hit.
See where his song is, All on the Watchtower by Jimi Hendrix.
Good choice. Mike had a base hit last night as a pinch hitter. Last night we had the whole thing that Kevin did with the authenticator.
Yes.
Will they take Luis Hernandez's first hit as a Met and authenticate that?
We'll have to ask the central scrutinizer at Joe's Garage.
That's Frank Zappa, right?
Absolutely.
Fernando Abad retired the first 2 hitters he faced before the Luis Hernandez base hit. And Hessman rockets one deep down the left field line. But foul into the front of the Acela Club. And in those front tables. Have a drink, have a bite, have a baseball. She was not expecting that baseball to arrive, I don't believe.
Well,
Mike Hessman providing a souvenir to a place in the ballpark that doesn't usually receive them. He just needs to straighten it out. But he goes down swinging on the fastball, and so that's the second out of the inning. Tonight at 10 p.m. and 1 a.m. catch the only New York sports news and highlights show in town. Coverage of today's Mets Astros game and everything else in New York sports on Geico Sports Night tonight at 10 and again at 1 a.m. right here on SNY. Here's Angel Pagan, who's 2 for 4 today. He had gone 0 for 11 to start the series, but has hits his last 2 times up. And he went around on that check swing, according to Kerwin Danley, 0-1.
Angel in front of the box, as you can see. In front of the plate, I should say.
That's not a swing.
No. It's getting late.
Come on, Kerwin.
Got an airplane to catch. The umpires, they don't fly on charters. They got to fly commercial, folks. So they're off to the next city. They got to get all their gear together and get over to the airport and fly commercial. It can't be fun for them.
They have no home games.
Yep.
They're on the road for 6 months.
Absolutely.
That's why they get vacations in the middle of the season, so they can actually have a life and see their family occasionally.
I think that was one of the great ideas for the umpires. Really something that needed to be done.
2-1 the count to Pregame. And he pulls the changeup down to third. Chris Johnson in the dirt and out at first base. Picked out by Carlos Lee to end the inning. Lee, who hasn't played a lot of first base, been pretty impressive over there. We go to the ninth with the Mets up 5-1. On SNY is brought to you by IOTV. Get the best in HD free with IOTV. By Toyota. There are many reasons to buy a Toyota, and now's the perfect time to get yours during Toyota's National Clearance Event. By Toshiba. By Advanced Radiation Centers with 6 New York area locations. ARC is the region's leader in cancer radiation treatment. For more info, log on to advancedradiationcenters.com. By Metro PCS, who now has an unlimited BlackBerry plan for just $60 a month. Metro PCS, wireless for all. By Suzuki and the amazing new Kizashi mid-size sports sedan. Suzuki, the power of engineering. And by Acela Express. Enjoy the journey. Isanori Takahashi comes on to pitch in the 9th inning to try and finish it off for the Mets, who have a 5-1 lead.
Well, he's become the closer of this club since Frankie has had the surgery. And you can see much more effective against left-handers. 2 of 2 in save opportunities. Much more effective out of the bullpen. He got off hot in that starting rotation early, Garrett, and then it just kind of fell apart for him.
Had some really good starts and then some really not very good starts. Chris Johnson leads off in the 9th inning, and he hits the first pitch in the air to right center. Beltran is over and back to make the catch. 1 pitch and 1 out. Let's check in with Chris Carlin and Bobby O'Hea to see what's coming up on Lincoln Mercury Postgame Live. Bobby's always such a good tease on those little things. He keeps a little back to let you know that there's something special coming up.
This must be the Spaniard in him.
I think it's just because he's left-handed. Here's Jason Castro, 2 for 3, and he takes a strike. We were talking about Henry Blanco and his age, 39 years old. We mentioned Brad Ausmus older. Turns out Jorge Posada is 11 days older than Henry Blanco.
I did not realize that Posada was that old.
And Greg Zaun, who's on the disabled list and is out for the year, is also older, but that doesn't matter. Okay. Well, he's not active. He's passive. 1-1 from Takahashi, and Castro takes a strike, 1-2. Angel Sanchez has come out on deck to be a pinch hitter. Mets finishing off his homestand, hoping to finish it at 500 and coincidentally get back to 500 for the season again. The Mets have been at 500 or within one game up or down for 25 straight games. It'll be 26 after today if they win. It's remarkable consistency, but not necessarily the kind you want. Lined foul.
So it looks like Josh Johnson's going to cruise to his 12th win, Gare.
It's a bounce back for him. He did not pitch well against the Mets in his last start.
And those Reds stay hot. They just broke that 5-5 tie with 2 runs. It looks like in the 8th.
So the Mets are going to go to Atlanta playing a team that's struggling right now to hang on to their lead. The Braves, if they lose today, will have lost 5 of 6. The Phillies play later in San Diego, looking to sweep that series from the Padres. And at the end of the day, the Phillies could be only 1 game out.
And as far as the wild card's concerned, you got Arizona at San Francisco, and you got the Dodgers right now at Colorado. Colorado early with a 1-0 lead. There's so many teams in front of the Mets in the wild card, 6 teams to be exact.
The Phillies lead by a 1.5 games over the Giants, 2 over the Cardinals, 4.5 over Colorado, 5.5 over the Dodgers, 6.5 over the Marlins, and then come the Mets 8 back. So it is a hill that is becoming increasingly impossible to imagine the Mets climbing. Again, the 2-2 to Castro, and he struck him out with a fastball. Takahashi takes care of Castro for the second out.
Fastball away. Straight as a string. Swung right through it.
So now Angel Sanchez will come up for the Astros, who are down to their final out. Sanchez started the first 2 games of this series and went 1 for 7. And he takes a strike on the outside edge, 0-1. Takahashi trying to finish it off for R.A. Dicky, who went 7 innings plus today, allowed a run on 6 hits, 2 walks, 2 strikeouts, in line for his 9th win. Change up, loop behind the second base bag. Castillo won't get there. And it's a base hit for Sanchez.
Well, there's been a lot of bloopers today, haven't there?
Hit number 9 for the Astros. And now Jason Bourgeois will come up for the first time. Came in relief of Michael Bourne in the last inning. We haven't gotten any word on what happened to Bourne, who was 1 for 4 today. Bourgeois led off and played left field yesterday and went 2 for 5 and made that nice catch on Josh Tolle in the 8th inning to keep the Astros in command. And Bourgeois takes a changeup for a strike. Build-A-Bear Day, and the Bears are out in force. Down to third base. Wright's got it, and the ball game is over. Takahashi finishes it off for R.A. Dicky, who not only pitched 7 strong innings but drove in a couple of runs. And the Mets take 2 out of 3 from the Astros to finish off a 3-3 homestand as they win today 5-1.
Well, as Gary said, a 500 road trip is not what the Mets had in mind, but it ends on a good note. And up comes now a very, very important series, folks. And it looks, let's be honest here, there's got to be a 4-game sweep in Atlanta for the Mets to have any kind of hopes. They got to get up, moving up quickly. Nothing but a 4-game sweep in Atlanta will do. They got their work cut out for them.
R.A. Dicky with a fine performance today on the mound and at the plate. Lowers his ERA to 2.57. That right now is 7th best in the National League. He has been an enormous story all year, and again today as he gets the Mets back to 500 yet again with 32 games to go in their season as you look at the Audi game summary.
Mets take 2 out of 3 from Houston, winning today 5-1. More from Citi Field.